What if I told you there's a single, simple strategy that could improve pretty much every interaction in your life? I'm talking about everything from negotiating a raise to, well, to figuring out who's going to do the dishes. Today, we're diving into the surprisingly simple math behind winning at the game of life.
So let's get real for a second. Picture this. You walk in the door, you're exhausted after a long day, and there it is. The sink is overflowing with your roommate's dishes. Again, you guys had a deal, right? It's their night. So the question is, what's your move?
You could cooperate. Just do the dishes, keep the peace, avoid the argument. But then you're kind of worried you'll be doing their chores forever. Or you could defect, leave the mess, make your point. But now you're living in a gross kitchen, and the vibe with your roommate is, let's just say, not great.
Now, I know this feels personal. Who hasn't been there? But what you're actually dealing with is a classic strategic problem. This isn't really about cleaning at all. It's about navigating a situation where your best move totally depends on what someone else decides to do. And this is where we enter the world of game theory. It sounds complicated, but it's really just the science of strategy. It's used in economics, politics, even biology to figure out the smartest choice when our fates are all tangled up with each other.
And that whole dish situation? It actually has a famous name, the prisoner's dilemma. It describes any time where everyone would be way better off if they just worked together, but that temptation to just look out for number one, to defect, is super strong. The problem is if you both defect, you both end up in a worse spot.
So if we run into this kind of dilemma all the time, what's the actual best way to handle it? Is it better to be a saint or to be ruthless? Well, back in the 1980s, one guy decided he was going to find out for sure.
This is political scientist Robert Axelrod. He had this brilliant idea. He invited game theory experts from all over the world to submit computer programs. Each program had its own unique strategy for playing the prisoner's dilemma over and over. Then he just let them fight it out to see which one was the best.
So here's how the game worked. The scoring was everything. If you both cooperate, you both get 3 points. Not bad. But the big temptation is to defect while your opponent cooperates. That gets you a whopping 5 points. But here's the catch. If you both betray each other, you both get a pathetic 1 point. The goal? Rack up the most points over hundreds of rounds.
The first tournament had some really surprising results, so Axelrod decided to run it again, but bigger. This time, 62 different strategies were submitted, and they were all over the place. Some were super complicated, trying to predict their opponent's moves. Others were just plain mean. As Axelrod put it, they ranged from simple and nice to cunning and nasty.
So what do you think? In a battle for strategic supremacy, who comes out on top? Is it the most aggressive program? The one with the most complex algorithm? Or was the winner something nobody saw coming?
Well, the results were a huge shock to all the experts. The winning program wasn't some evil genius. It wasn't a backstabber. It was actually one of the simplest, most basic programs in the entire competition.
The winner of both tournaments, by the way, was a tiny program called Tit for Tat. It was so simple, its creator, a game theorist named Anatol Rappaport, apparently thought it was just a throwaway entry.
Its genius was just how simple it was. The entire strategy had only 2 rules. Rule number 1, on the very first move, always cooperate. Just start by being nice. Rule number 2, for every single move after that, just copy what your opponent did to you last time. That's it, the whole strategy. But here's the craziest part. Tit for Tat never won a single head-to-head match. Think about it. Because it only ever copies the last move, the best it could ever do was tie. So how on earth did it win the whole tournament? Well, it didn't win by crushing its opponents. It won by encouraging them to cooperate, racking up a ton of steady points with other nice programs, and avoiding getting into long, pointless fights with the nasty ones.
Robert Axelrod himself summed it up perfectly. He said, its incredible success came down to a powerful combination of 4 qualities: being nice, retaliatory, forgiving, and clear.
Let's break that down because it's brilliant. First, it's nice. It never starts a fight. Second, it's retaliatory. If you defect on it, it defects right back. It will not be a doormat. Third, it's forgiving. The second you go back to cooperating, it forgives you instantly, no grudges. And finally, it's clear. The strategy is so simple, other programs quickly learned, hey, I get more points if I just play nice with this guy.
Now this is about way more than just a computer tournament from the 80s. This is basically a blueprint for how to navigate our own lives, from our jobs to our friendships.
When you boil it all down, the lesson is incredibly simple, but so powerful. Don't be a pushover, but don't be a jerk. Be willing to work with people, but always respond to how they treat you.
The real secret here is realizing that your greatest strength is playing the long game. Success isn't about winning every little fight. It's about building relationships over time where everybody wins, because that's how you get the highest score in the end.
Like Axelrod said, cooperation happens because we know we're probably going to see these people again. The reason to be fair and cooperative isn't just about being a good person. It's also just smart strategy. You're going to have to deal with that coworker, that client, that roommate again tomorrow.
So, let's go back to those dishes in the sink. The next time you face a dilemma, whether it's big or small, remember tit for tat and ask yourself, what's your first move going to be?
I hope you enjoyed that. If this gave you something to think about, do me a favor and like, share, and of course, subscribe to The Wise Cut. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this strategy, so drop them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.